If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Blah, 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 blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Good vibes.
Blah,
Good vibes.
blah, blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grand America Show. Coming at you this week, back on time, back on schedule, back at home for a little while, it seems like. I mean, I might do some short little jaunts, but definitely no extended travel like that for a few months. And we're coming at you with Gregory from Cosmos University. It's a fun chat. We got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham, East Coast. Dunlop went and did your Atlanta thing, came back. You look fresher in Saskatchewan.
It's probably my new camera that you gave me.
Could be the camera. And they're just not being beaded and sweat at all times.
And what do you mean?
Well, that's the real problem with the humidity.
Oh, I like it out there. I thought it was very comfortable outside. I don't like being in the air-conditioned conference room that much, to be honest with you.
It got cold in the conference room from time to time. It did get a little chilly.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird because we've already been back a week. Like, it just time flies, man. It's crazy.
A week back. Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's man,
But I gotta
no, it's not a week. It's like 4 days.
Tuesday, right?
Well, yeah, I guess I got back
Tuesday.
late Tuesday.
Tuesday's tomorrow. Oh, it's Monday today. So yeah.
Monday today. So not quite a week.
But this is an amazing chat. I got to shout out to Cosmos University. I mean, I'm blown away. Darren, you're going to love some of this stuff too, that the website here. Gregory, Dizzia, MD, and DR Foresi. She was in the background helping us. Enoch and Antediluvian account. We kind of went over their book and stuff, but check out the website, Cosmos University, cosmos.university. So look at this website here. I'm sharing my screen with you here.
Can you move that? That's just the one you can move from side to side and all over the place.
Well, I don't know. I mean, so like, look at pick something here. Like pick. Let me go down here. I mean, it's not only just an amazing visual thing. The data, like they have this. There's their publications there. Like look at this. So this is Mercury, the planet, with all the symbols and all the stats, the bulk parameters, the orbital parameters. Like, yeah,
that's cool.
And then go to the next one. Like
video gamey.
Look there's the next one right now. We're at Venus right there. Go to the data bank. So they have, we collect data. We maintain a comprehensive data bank, harmonizing esoteric wisdom with scientific data. Go to the data banks, click on that. Look at this. Books. They have 180 books in there. Celestials, chakras, crystals, deities, plants, people. I mean, it's very cool.
It's a ton of work.
Yeah. Etruscan magic, flesh of the god. I mean, it's just a awesome work. And then, of course, the one that I want to mention, so that's at cosmos.university. The one I wanted to mention is the data viewer. That's where it shows the changing climate over the past 22,000 years. I mean, it's a tool that they created to show this. So check that out as well. I'm going to read it. But might as well just read his bio right now. This is from Cosmos University. It's a visionary publishing house and research collective committed to exploring the intersection of ancient wisdom, cutting-edge science, and the profound mysteries that lie beyond conventional understanding. With a dynamic blend of scholarly rigor, curiosity-driven inquiry, and innovative thinking, Cosmos University offers groundbreaking insights into spirituality, historical enigmas, and phenomena often overlooked by mainstream academia. And Gregory is the driving force behind this university, a platform dedicated to unraveling humanity's most profound mysteries. With a background in engineering, visual design, and an open mind, has always been fascinated by the interplay of tech, history, and the human experience. This fascination led him to explore ancient civilizations and the mysteries they left behind, inspiring him to create a research hub where science and mysticism converge. I mean, this is what we've needed. So the data viewer is there's a separate link in the show notes for that as well, but I think you can get there through Cosmos University as well.
Cosmos University.
Yeah. There's Earth. We connect people, join the community. Then you scroll down. There's the next planet there, which is Mars. That's so cool.
It'd be neat to couple this up with Tycho somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Anywho, we should, people can skip ahead if they want to skip ahead to that interview. There's always a timestamp in the show notes. I should also mention, I should mention at the front of the show that we still have the chats at gramerica.ca/chats. We'll take you into the chats with the boys. We also have the Telegram. People can check that out. It's all on the website. And get there right away. So I was getting my balls busted for not mentioning the chats enough from Kansas. So I figured.
Yeah, I thought about that too the other day. Yeah.
Maybe it's been a minute since we mentioned it. People can check that out. They also got gramerica.ca/swag. If people want to get, there's hats there now. I think you get hats and t-shirts and all that sort of fun stuff. So week back in the saddle, you got, have you had a bath in your bathroom yet?
No, but hey, dude, I've got the dry. I didn't send you some pictures, did I? So I did the whole floor leveling thing, and I got most of the drywall up already.
So when's the big day?
Well, I need the electricians to come back in just for a little bit. There's a couple loose ends that need to be done, and then the plumbers will come back in and do the installation of everything, the tub, the sink, and the toilet. So I got quite a bit of drywalling to do. I mean, I might as well do it while the bathroom's empty, right? So, but I mean, part of me was just like, put the floor in, get the tub in, and I'll do the drywall later. But I mean, it's so much easier this way. But I just really wanted to get the tub set up for Maria so she could lounge and relax and heal in there. She needs a place to heal. She goes through a lot of temperature changes too. So
you're ways off yet.
Yeah, it's coming together though. I mean, yeah, the floor and drywall. I mean, it's really looking like a room, starting to look like a room.
It's coming around. When's the anticipated first bath?
Oh, probably end of the month. Let's say end of July, maybe a month. I mean, I'd like it to happen sooner, but you know what? It's hard to know when the plumbers can come back in. You know, it's hard to schedule things in these small towns. You know, everybody's so busy.
Yeah, I mean, I have a plumber. It usually takes 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah,
and that's just coming to do the scrape out. Come and scrape that shit out. So, it's not too bad. I would do probably the electrical's tough, but you could have done the plumbing.
Oh no, man! The way they redid all the pipes, all the copper stuff is gone. All the plastic stuff's in there now, and they had to, they did the flooring. I mean, dude, I couldn't have rejigged all the flooring underneath with they're experts at all that, like chipping away the concrete, putting the new piping in, and then refilling it all. Like, that's not something I feel like I'm going to save any time or money on. I mean, I got too much outside stuff too. I mean, the sheds collapsed, so I had to paint that whole wall of the house because it was all peeling. So before I put the sheds up, now I have to repaint that whole wall of the house and the trim and all that and get all that done. So I would almost be, if I had my choice, I'd be saving all this other stuff for inside work and just be working outside all summer, but
it's a good time.
But I'll save some other inside projects for winter, and once I get the bathroom done, the sheds have to be put up before the nice weather goes away.
Yeah, well, it was crazy windy here yesterday, and then I went and got some chickens today.
How many?
2 more.
Oh,
One had died a few months ago, just dropped dead. I think it's probably egg bound, and the other one went missing while I was gone. I don't know what happened. Uh, I know we've had some eagles hanging around before. We've had the owls like right down on the back fence, watching them run around, and had to go scare the owl off. Or if it got out of here somehow and just fucked off, doesn't seem as likely. But there was only 3 when I got back, so I went and got 2 more youngins. I had to drive a minute though. I had to drive like an hour and a half each way to go get them, which is a haul. But I could only find older ones. I don't want a 2-year-old bird. I'd rather drive a little farther for one that's like 4 months old. It's just starting laying. It'll lay all winter. So got that done. Got the grass cut.
it's been a weird weird summer weather-wise. I mean, it's been really stormy and rainy and windy here.
Been quite wet around for sure. Yeah, it's been pretty wet. But that's been good. The grass is growing, trees are growing. There's tons of animals everywhere. It's looking like it's going to be a good hunting season. And we're just sort of getting into summer mode, really. Now is about the time. It was still like, it must got cold as shit last night because it was like not quite frost, but when you go get in your vehicle in the morning and it's not a frosty windshield, but it's got from the temperature change inside or whatever, you got that. You got to put on the wipers, clear it off.
Yeah.
But it tends to only happen when it gets pretty chilly, I think it goes down to +6.
Yeah.
Overnight. So we're still hitting the single digits, which would be like, 40 or 41 for the American listeners. So still pretty chilly, not warm.
So are you gonna hunt? You're hunting this summer too, or how does that hunting season work? Because you've got those trips planned for next year, right?
This year.
Or sorry, this fall, next season, I guess I meant. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I got a couple antelope. If I have to go get another one of them, I will. I'm gonna go start putting out my cam soon and seeing what's out there. But we're still at least probably 6 weeks away from hunting heavily. Usually about middle of August, late July. It's just so hot.
well, isn't mid-August the hottest part?
Now it's cooling down quite a bit by then because it's already getting dark at like 8 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock,
I guess.
Makes a huge difference. Because out on the plains, dude, it gets hot. It's hot till fucking 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you need that. It just cools off a bit. So as soon as that starts happening, it just doesn't, you stop getting the super high temperatures like you get in July. Tends to be the hottest around here.
Huh.
July and the beginning of August.
Yeah. Speaking of temperatures, we were just looking at the Azores trip, getting excited for that. And so do you have hunting before? You have hunt openings for your hunting trips before that? Because we always have a link in the show notes to your hunting trips there.
Yeah, we got some openings. There's some room for that. We got we're doing like the 30-day or sorry, the 4-day tours, a couple 4-day tours. Johnny's here for like 11 days straight, Johnny and Tony. So I don't know if that's something people wanted to, if they want to do a whole 11-day crazy adventure, they could contact me privately, but we're going to, because that'll probably split into 2 camps. We're going to go camping in between out in the mountains and maybe chase some sheep around. It's going to be fun. We're going to have time with those boys to really get into some shit. We're going to go for some upland, maybe some moose. We'll have like almost a full 2 weeks with nothing to really do but hunt.
Wow. When's that?
I mean, we'll take a few breaks in between, I'm sure. That's because they're here, right? Tony and Johnny are here from the 24th, I think, to the 5th. At the
Of
end
what?
of September and into October.
Okay.
And then, hunting pretty hard right up till we leave here on the 3rd sometime, the 2nd or the 3rd, probably the 2nd, I think it looks like, to leave for the Azores tour and don't get back from that for 2 weeks. So that'll be fun. That'll be an adventure in itself. I'm looking forward to that. Never done that before. But I mean, I'm not looking forward to all the flying. There is 3 spots left for that. I mean, I can tell you this, it's gonna be fucking epic. We're just looking through the itinerary again today and doing all that stuff, and it is jammed up. There's like 2 spots left, maybe 3. So if people want to check that out, contact at thecabin.com. Of course, the Easter Island thing is coming up right away. Not right away, but in the spring and at the end of March, we're going to Easter Island for a week. People come check that out. And then we've got the Lake Chelan trip at the resort in Washington with Randall Carlson doing that whole mega flood thing, add on to the Scablands. And then we got come back from that. We got the big solstice party that we just launched that people are already taking. It seems like it's going to be a popular one. So people are already taking a pretty big interest in. So that's over at contact@thecabin.com. Of course, that's going to be the solstice.
Oh, yeah. I got to talk to you about that. Some people are getting a hold of me. I got to remember to ask you for how much the deposit is for that.
For what?
Well, for the solstice one, there's people wanting to get in.
Oh, I think it's just $500 is the deposit. Yeah. And then if you're camping, you don't even owe a whole much more than that. Listen, I would love to do less than that. But what I found is 500 or about a third the amount of your most ticket. Because when we do the Randall events, we charge like $1,200 or $1,000. The reason being because you surprise how many people will just walk away. When we used to do $250, it would come time to pony up, which is usually in our case too close to the event to resell a bunch of tickets, and then you have 10 people are just like, just keep the deposit, and
yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember when that happened. I was like, oh, that kind of, it wasn't enough to offset it, and you lost. You end up losing your shirt.
You end up losing money. And as we record, we sold 2 tickets already for that to the solstice. So that was one of like 6 private rooms is gone now. So bam, people want to check that out. Contact.
Was that $500 per couple or per person?
Well, the beauty thing about this event that we're doing, we're trying to get in there and get back to the cheaper entry level thing. So I mean, I just sort of run the numbers and get it down as cheap as I can. So the camp spots are like $850 for the 4 nights, all inclusive. And then if you add a person, so if you're a couple, the second person is just $500. That's even if you get a private room. The second person is just $500. So it's like you get to bring a friend for $500. That's not possible on the shared accommodations, obviously. That's like bunks and single beds and stuff, so that'll be on your own. But the camping, you can easily bring a tent that fits 2 people. So the second person, $500, and the private room, same deal. If you're bringing your wife, you can bring her along for $500, and then so that people can check that out. I don't think that one's on the website yet, eh? Probably not. We just launched it.
Yeah.
But there'll be a link in the show notes. People can just go to that. Or if you just go to one of our other Contact at the Cabin links, they're all through Eventbrite. So once you click on one of our other events, usually you can just like scroll down to the bottom and there'll be an option to see all of our events. At which point you can see them all. And there's a bunch up there right now. We've got right now the most events we've ever had on sale. I mean, not counting the hunting stuff. There's, I think, 4 events up there right now. So check that out because a couple of them are almost gone. And a couple of them are brand new. You might want to just get a deposit in now. That solstice party is going to be something else. And Brandon Powell's coming out. I've got a commitment from Oliver to come and cook, and Nikki the dude is driving. And I've got a commitment from at least half of Cruising with Steak to be there.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, Grimsteak says he's coming out and bringing his wife coming out for the event.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'll believe it when I see it, Grimsteak. Now, he seems pretty excited, and I know he's been going to some other events in the meantime, so it'll be good to see them. Maybe James will come out too. Contact at thecabin.com. Check all that stuff out. And, I mean, while we're on that spiel, support the show, grimerica.ca/support. We could really use some more supporters, We kind of do this thing value for value. We've been doing it for 12 years, all sorts of episodes, still trying to make a living, still hustling through a bunch of other endeavors, from businesses to audiobooks to tours to everything else to make ends meet. But we could just use a few more supporters around here, and it would really help bridge the gap. And on that note, we do have a few people to thank. I want to thank James P. Campbell, who came in with $20, becomes a noble. If he wasn't already, he might have been already. But the other thing is, you support the show, you become a noble instead of a shitty pleb. So now you become a noble in the House of Grimerica. $1,000, you're a lord. 10,000, you're a deity. So, there's all these sorts of ins and outs, but even $20, bam, noble, from pleb to noble. It's never in the history of the world has it been so easy to go from pleb to noble. Send us $10. We'll jump over to Kevin Robinson, who sent $25. And these people all did it through the new support page. We redid the support page. So we have a new and improved support page over at grimerica.ca/support. Check it out. We were able to finally integrate Stripe and PayPal into one. And the Stripe, I think, just finally works a whole lot better. You don't have to go to a whole different website. Now, one thing I did notice is I think Stripe, a lot of subscriptions only go for 12 months and then they cancel them. So if you've been on Stripe, you might want to go double check that. And then we'll jump over to Bill the Shill, friend of the show. Bill, am I allowed to say his last name? It's probably not real anyway. Bill Anderson came in with $100. He came in right away after we. It's funny. As soon as we said I had a new support page, he's like, he had to go check it out.
Thanks, Bill.
So thank you, Bill. Thank you, guys. We couldn't do without you. Please tell your friends to support the show as well. grimerica.ca/support. Get your audiobooks at adultbrain.ca, or if you have Spotify or what.
Somebody else, I thought they supported us today too. In the chats, they were talking about it. Shout out them.
Yeah, I think I did. I think that was the $25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you caught that one now.
I think I caught it. If not, let me know. They do slip through the cracks sometimes. Sometimes PayPal labels it weird so that it'll go in with all the other like micro payments and miss, but usually it's pretty good. And I tried to set up the new system to prompt them for a note. So if you've used the new system, let me know if it prompts you for a note or if that's just a bullshit button that doesn't actually do anything on my end. Adultbrain.ca for all those audiobooks. You check them out and use your Spotify and Audible credits on them. There's buttons on the website there at Adult Brain to get you right over there. Ebooks, print books, publish a book, all that sort of fun stuff. And of course, Grimerica, CBD.com for your CBDs, tinctures, and gummies. I wonder how that's doing. Did that website get fixed yet?
Yeah, it did, I think. But it didn't save the first time, so it's up there and it's done now. And we just got a sale a couple days ago. But yeah, get your CBD there especially if you're doing it on the monthly thing and you're got somebody's try ours out. We've got special CBD. It's got our Grimerica logo all over it.
That's right. And of course, GrimericaOutlawed.ca. We got a whole other podcast. We do stuff over there. And a-list.ca, like eh-list.ca. For other podcasts, that's all like Canadian news and politics. And, maybe annoying to most of you guys, maybe not. For some of you guys, might want to go check that out. There's a bunch of stuff we do over there twice a week. And I'll shout out the wife's tallow and then we'll take a cut. BigSkyTallow.ca. She was selling out the butcher here, and then they went with the butcher's wife, ended up making her own tallow line and kicking her out. So we just made a website. And so we'll sell it there. I thought it was a lot harder to get it to the US, but it's just the UK. It looks like as long as it's not for consumption, it's pretty easy to ship it. It's almost easier to ship it to the States than it is to ship it out east.
I'm surprised. Yeah, can you buy towel from the States? I wouldn't be surprised if we couldn't, because you can't buy CBD from the States.
You can buy it as long as you're not eating it. You're eating the CBD.
Right.
This is the difference.
Okay.
This is where you get it. So if people check out the website, BigSkyTallow.ca. I whipped that thing up in 2 hours with the AI. The whole thing, the store, all of it. It's pretty amazing because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing most of the time. So not like I was just doing it for some code or some help here or there. Start to learn your way around WordPress a little bit. And then the other thing I need to know while we're on the subject is if people are interested in Ranch Cack, you got to email me. You got to let me know. I got to know if that's going to be a thing, if we're going to do it, who, how many. I got to know where that's at because a bunch of people are acting like it's a thing, but no one's actually just told me that they.
Okay, so this is like Ranch Cack is like at your place, basically a weekend at your place. Especially for those that have like been to our Contact at the Cabin events before.
People we know.
It's the long weekend of September, right? So September, what, 5th, 7th, something like that, 1st?
It's August like 30th to September 1st or something.
Oh, it's that early this year? Okay.
Yeah, I think Labor Day's the 1st.
So we're going to spend a couple days. There's a couple things we can do, tour around to some sites in Alberta and party a little bit. Anything else planned?
Not really. I think Shauna said she'd take some people hiking in the mountains if they want.
Okay.
And then we were talking, writing on stone's a bit far, but the medicine wheel's only like an hour and a half.
The medicine wheel would be good to see.
Yeah. So could rip out and do that. And then mostly just hang out, maybe roast a pig and, just a chill out event of not doing a whole lot of running around or that sort of thing. But if no one wants to do it, we don't have to do it either. I'm totally fine with that. That's like right at the start of hunting season. So I'd go either way. Shoot me an email, let me know. Shoot Graham an email, let him know. You get any emails anymore?
Yep.
Yeah, nothing worth reading on the show.
I just keep them private.
That's it. Just go in your private collection.
Yeah, they're usually like, I need a new password reset or, technical things.
All right. Well, what else you got?
That's about it, really. Just
we did the bonus show that just came out with Sprout. If people want to recap, I did get my balls busted for not, talking about the fake babies enough. But how much can you talk about the fake babies? There's fake babies there. It's the craziest shit you ever. It's crazier than you can imagine. But not a fake baby podcast.
Well, we should have mentioned the Atlantica documentary a little bit more, probably. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff happening at the Cosmic Summit. So yeah, check that out. And we had a cool outlawed roundup coming out tonight too. Got into some UFO stuff and some fun stuff there.
Good stuff. That's for Plus members over at GrandAmericaOutlaw.ca. Check it out. And we love you guys. Thanks for supporting. Support if you don't, you son of a bitch. If you do, we love you. And enjoy the chat with Gregory. And
all they want, if you want to keep a man, keep.
What are you listening while you're podcasting?
I don't know what happened there.
The stream's crazy. You listen to that?
I'm like AOC.
You listen to that in the other ear? How to keep a man?
Was that it? They're simple creatures.
Enjoy the chat, guys, with Gregory from Cosmic University. Wasn't DJ or wasn't there another one? That was there for bits and pieces.
Yeah, she was in the background helping out Dr. Foresi and Gregory Dizzia, MD, Cosmos University. And check out the links and stuff. The book was great too.
Absolutely, guys. There you have it. Enjoy the chat, and we love you.
right, we are excited to have Gregory Dizzia here with us from Cosmos University. We have Dr. Foresi in the background, who's reading their book Enoch, an Antediluvian account, and we're going to talk about some of the tools they have here at the university. And welcome to the show, Greg.
Hey, great, glad to be here.
Yeah, this will be fun. I mean, I just love, the Enoch book. We did an audio book of it, but it felt like a different, a different version of it, a different take on it. And you guys were recommended to us from a friend, and I thought, we got to talk about this stuff because it's really right now the timing for me personally, and all the research is just everything is clicking a little bit more than it was a few years back. This whole thing, this whole timeline thing, and with the old myths and the younger Dryas and all that stuff. So it was just good timing for me to experience your work, I guess, just to say up front.
I think it's good timing for the world. I think this is like the convergence of a lot of science now, a lot from different fields that are telling a story that's way different than the one I grew up with. And I think it's putting some of these older books and older writings into a perspective that they might not be mythology. They might not be like legends in a sense. Like they might be more historical. And there were things that they were writing down 2,000 years ago that you couldn't have validated them 2,000 years ago, but you could validate them now.
Right.
And yeah, so I think it's an exciting time for anyone to go read something like the Book of Enoch or the Mahabharata or some of these older apocryphas and put it into the context of modern genetics, modern geologies, modern climatology. Like we're starting to get a less blurry picture of that past, and by integrating stories that traveled with humans through cataclysms, it might be a way to illustrate more of what the humans went through. Because I think, I don't think as much as I like the cave paintings, I don't think we were sitting in caves for 260,000 years or something.
For 99% of our humanity.
Yeah, I think with these big brains we've got, and with this propensity to procreate and to build tools that we've got to recontextualize all this stuff. And again, something like the Book of Enoch gives us just a little bit of the context, just enough.
So is that why did you start up Cosmos University then? I mean, let's talk about that right off the bat.
Oh yeah. Well, so we try to do this convergence of science and spirit, so it started as trying to look at the spiritual stuff a bit more scientifically.
Yeah.
And so on day one, we didn't have a plan to publish books. We didn't have a plan to visit these old texts and try to bring them in. But as we searched down, like you can call it folk magic or whatever you want, just experiences that people have. We realized there isn't a lot of heavy science there. That it seems like a very neglected area of research. Consciousness in general, biofields are very neglected. In general, just the electromagnetic spectrum and what the environmental influences on us are very neglected. And so we started working through and finding, like for every crystal you've ever heard of and for every plant you've ever heard of, like the alleged effects that these plants or crystals could have. And in that we were like, how did anybody ever figure that out? Like, where's the basis of the reasoning? So as we went back and back and back in time, looking for rituals and magic books and I guess you call it esoteric knowledge, it kind of converges up against a lot of this information that's more historical, and it comes down in most cultures. We didn't figure that out. It was given to us.
Yeah.
and it was like, well, I guess I'm not trying to say I believe one thing or the other, but it's like the story we're getting is that something bigger than us figured it out or gave it to a population that was less educated, and then it would just kind of took off. And I think what we've got is like the leftovers of something.
Yeah.
And not the full picture.
Yeah, the leftovers enough just to survive and maybe thrive a bit, but not really to get where it was before.
Right. Like we're missing. I think it's just we can see today that science is kind of going in one direction.
Yeah.
And it's very materialistic based and very resource based and capital based. the productization of science, like all this stuff you have in the world around you, where we've taken innovation and made it like a core part of how our society progresses. I don't believe we're going to lead towards Star Trek. I think that Star Trek is the way you could see it. This high technology where you've got all sorts of like beautiful technologies that are all still kind of merging together in a world that like makes sense to us, that looks like the world we live in, skyscrapers made of steel and materials that are just ultra technical stuff. I think over time, with what we're seeing right now, we're going to move more towards these elegant solutions that blend in with nature and in fact take advantage of nature. So I think that the world that we may have lost looks like that. It looks like something where the technology hit this point and then went 1,000 years beyond this point, maybe 5,000 years beyond this point. And I like to always think like we build houses right now out of stone or out of wood. I kind of imagine a world in which they would simply have control over a plant to such an extent that they could grow a house and that they could grow a road and that they could convince nature to do it on your behalf and potentially take control of all this kind of free labor that nature provides to do things
like
at a
that.
perfect molecular level.
I like that. That's a really well articulated, and it might sound the same to some people as what they're trying to do now to control nature, but you're working with it. You're kind of working as like within it, letting it flow instead of trying to work against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Randall's talks a lot about that. Some of the architecture you see in the sacred architecture too, they try to use elements of the natural world that's around them, right? Blend into the, if I built a house on a mountainside, I would use the same materials as right there on that mountainside. Try and
Yeah, and isn't it interesting how sometimes they stand out in this like sort of like Great Pyramids, where it stands out when they don't use something local.
yeah,
And you're like, for what reason did you drag red granite? Like
exactly. There had to be a reason.
there
Exactly.
had to be a reason. And the easy one with something like red granite is it's piezoelectric. It contains a lot of quartz, so it can convert electromagnetic waves into electricity. Like it can take radiation and ground it back out, and it can take sound and convert that to electricity. And electricity is a very important thing, right? I don't know how the ancients would have used electricity, but I think it's a good way to move work like energy from one place to another. It's moves at the speed of light. And once you have access to something like that, you don't have to use it for iPhones and all that kind of stuff. You can use it for other stuff. Yeah,
healing even.
Yeah, right. Getting into the body's fields, and understanding how those are operating with our health.
So then, when did you start up with Cosmos University?
Oh, it had to be 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And again, it started as like a research, like a data bank of research, where we were going out and finding old books and kind of, I don't know what the right word is, like we're analyzing them, but we're sort of extracting out and saying, this author from this period said that, ruby is associated with the fire element or something like that. And we don't know how that got to be, but at least we know we found an old source and stuff like that. And then it moved into this publishing stuff because kind of conversations we were having, same as you, like the DR and I, like we're going through and we're seeing stuff like the Younger Dryas, and we're saying, well, where do we come from? And like it's weird side conversations you have as you're researching magical effects of like, and the Book of Enoch just like stood out to me years ago, like over a decade ago is probably the first time I read it. And I just felt like it was, it was containing stuff in there that it shouldn't have had. Does that make sense? Like that there's no way an author, even in the Second Temple period, like 300 BC, would have any way to figure any of these things out. And we took a bit of time and went through it line by line and extracted out a lot of information to work with. And I think we're going to continue doing that. Like, so we started working on the Book of Jubilees now, and I think our plan is to sort of do as many books as we can that have any sort of information either about the post-cataclysm world that got set up or the pre-cataclysm world that we lost.
Is
There's
that
not that many
mainly
books.
in the
Yeah.
Apocrypha then? Like, is that one of the? I mean, because it's hard not to go there. That's why they left those out.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have a lot of reasons to leave them out,
Right.
But yeah, I think that there's I think you've got maybe two in the Apocrypha, three in the Apocrypha that makes sense to analyze. Like Book of Jubilees is definitely on the list. The book of First Enoch, and there's a scrapped out, can't find extant version of something called the Book of Giants, which is like, oh, if I could get my hands on the Book of Giants, that's the supposed book that was transferred down through the surviving giants. So in the Book of Jubilees, you see that there's like factional giants still inhabiting. Because you know that from the Bible too. It says like David fighting Goliath, and it's mentioned kind of like offhand, but like they had cities still. And in Jubilees, where you've got Noah's offspring kind of like spreading out, they're running into it. They're running into colonies and stuff like that. And that's a vision from one part of the world. But apparently, these guys had a book. They kept their information together, and it speaks a lot to the lead up events right before the flood, and that doesn't show up anywhere else. So you get a story in the Book of Giants where it's talking about 400,000 righteous humans fighting with the archangels to push off the threat, like almost like a last desperate way to prove that you don't need to flood this place, that you don't need to reset it, that you don't need to like knock out 99% of the population and all the technology. Maybe there's some way to kind of fix all the problems that were created. The problems are kind of, the Book of Enoch is all the problems, but it's like they were trying to hold on to something. You can see it, and we only have like a couple words here and a couple words here out of what probably was originally maybe 10,000, 15,000 word document.
Huh, that's fascinating. I liked how you talked about in Enoch the solar measure mathematics from that. Can you explain a little bit about that and how
Yeah,
it looks like he was speaking from another area and then also
yeah,
correlating that to Patagonia and the giants? I mean, that was pretty crazy.
yeah. Thanks. That is one of my favorite things. That's probably the reason I did the Book of Enoch, because as I was reading it, there's there's a chapter in there where Enoch has been, so that kind of set this up. Enoch had met the angels, the fallen angels, and he was asked to petition on their behalf, the big guy, because they couldn't anymore. There's some sort of like, they couldn't, the comm lines were down. So they take Enoch, who's a human and a righteous human, a truth teller, somebody who can write. He can, do all the things. He understands the human situation really well. And something, I mean, flash of light, I don't know. There's nothing really indicated. He ends up on a journey, and this journey brings him through like everywhere from the four corners of the world, kind of like to seeing how the world works. And he's being led by various archangels. And I think at this time when he's having this part of it's Uriel that is leading him. And in the book of Enoch, it says he sort of is in a place and he observes the ratio of sun to night. So basically how much day and how much night. And he was probably there for at least a year. We get a little bit of support from the Book of Jubilees that says he was there for over 200 years, but that's not in First Enoch. So we don't, just keep that in mind. From his impression, it doesn't sound like he was there for like 200 years, but who knows? So he sees like the sun goes up and it's in the sky for 12 parts, and then it goes down and the night is 6 parts. So a 12-part day, a 6-part night adds up to 18. And then he goes through the whole thing. And what you can extract is he's talking about a maximum number of hours of sunlight, a minimum number of hours of sunlight, and he's telling you there's a middle. So by taking that, you go, okay, we don't have 18-hour days, so you got to do a little math. And when you push that out through the math equation, you find that there's sort of like these day-night cycles. With day-night cycles, you can get latitude. How far are we from the equator? And especially if you have a whole year of it, you can basically say, okay, within a degree or 2 degrees, you're going to be able to nail down where this is. And we found that there was a little bit of extra hint there to say you don't have to look at the northern hemisphere, because Enoch is describing the sun going through the north. So that means he's in the southern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, the sun's always in the south, and in the northern hemisphere, it's always, or in the southern hemisphere, it's always in the north. So if you take the thing that he basically relayed, you get a band that's right around 50 degrees off of the equator, and maybe plus or minus 2 degrees, because the sun, the day length is kind of dependent also on your altitude. So we took that, we wrapped it around the globe, and we regressed it. We pushed the globe back to the glacial max, and we go, okay, where could he have been? And there's nothing other than South America. Nothing. There's nothing above water. So unless there's no islands that would have, been servicing this. So we started to home in on Patagonia as a place that Enoch may have been, pre-flood. It may have been a base in a sense, because you got to remember the context is he's working with an archangel, and that archangel is trying to show him the secrets. Some of the things that are, that going to help Enoch understand the gravity or size of the situation. And he's preparing to take Enoch to go see God. So that's kind of, maybe it needs a little time, some instructions. But when you get to Patagonia, you go, okay, so where could it be? And so we looked into it. We found a legend that the Templars went down there. Like they landed, so we're looking at 50 degrees. They landed at like 45 degrees south on the eastern coast of South America forever ago. There's no record, right? There's a mound that's on the coastline right at the south of a bay where they put a fort, and it's been explored. And we were like, people are like, oh, just Templar markings here. But it's like, it's just ruins. There's barely even ruins, just pottery shards. And we know that they headed west and went to the other coast across the Andes and established in a place that's still there today called Conception in Chile. So they were on the hunt for something, and I don't know if they found it because they were a little too far north. And so we went for a hunt, and I went and looked through mythologies from the region. And the first one that flew out at me was that when the Europeans were formally going over there and trying to find a way to do a transit line past the continent, right? There's no way to get around the continent through the north that's reliable, so you've got to go through the south. And Magellan's down there, and he finds the Magellan Straits, because nobody really wants to go through the Drake's Passage, which is this spot between South America and Antarctica that's like, tumultuous would be like a nice way to put it. It's like even in a boat today, you wouldn't want to be in the Drake's Passage, So they're going down there in these expeditions to try to find this way west, and they're up near the shoreline, right? And when they're going through there, they're obviously looking at the shoreline. They're landing to hunt, they're trying to explore what they can, but it's nothing but rocks down there. And they see a bunch of people, and they get in their rowboats, and they go and they land. And there's actual illustrations you can go find from, I don't know if it's Magellan's journal or somebody who's on a journey with him, where you can see them meeting the Patagons. And the Patagons are twice as tall as the Europeans are. And so it's like a land of giants. Patagonia, the big feet, like that sort of like resolves out to me like land of the big feet could be, So there's giants in the region, which would indicate, and they're still there, right? That's the point. They're still there at the time of Magellan. They're not there today. I don't know if they died off or whatever. And the modern way to look at it is like, well, they were like 6 feet tall. And it's like, well, that was just the bones you found, The stories there are different. So as this kind of goes on, there's another story as Magellan's, open the passage now. Now there's boats going through. And there's a legend of these guys that crashed and traveled from the bottom part of that whole range. So it's like the tip of South America, north to Conception on the west coast. They survived it. The boat crashed. And as they were making their way through the mountains, they saw something up in the mountains like a city. And the accounts are really hard to nail down because these are like 500-year-old accounts. So the general thing is that they said they saw something that looked like that nothing they'd ever seen before, in between, at the peak, between two mountain ranges, and like right up there. And it's like, they called it the city of the Caesars, the city of the gods, Ciudad de la Cesare, the city of the Caesars. And the South Americans have a bunch of stuff on Wikipedia if you want to read about that and the whole legends around it, because the legend kind of grows to be like advanced technology and inhabited by the gods and all these kind of typical things. Pretty much right on the money where Enoch said he was. So we went and looked with satellite imagery, and we found a site, and we're excited about that. But I'm not like sharing it yet because I don't want anybody to go, like
traipsing
like,
around there.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things you hold tight. We found a site that's it's pretty big. It's 100 meters or so squared out. That's one of the features. It's squared out and flat in the middle of the Andes.
Wow.
And yeah, and there's nothing there. So you're like, oh, it's because it's under 5 feet of dirt or something, right? And then around it, there's smaller, like maybe 30, 40 foot squared out things. So you're like, oh, okay, so roof's collapsed, right? Like that's what that is. That's something that was there, and it probably lasted a really long time. But as we know from, like, I'm sure you're just as a geek as I am at looking at these ancient sites, it's like the ones that we see today are usually reconstructed a bit. So they don't last as long as we want them to unless they're built out of big stones. Like Machu Picchu is reconstructed, right? And a lot of the Mesoamerican pyramids are reconstructed at some point, especially the Ziggurat of Ur. The Ziggurat of Ur was like a hill, and then they saw enough there to reconstruct it. So I'm not expecting to find, like something down there that's fully intact, but I think that might be a really good place to go look.
Oh yeah.
For something else connected to Enoch, which is a vault. So that brings in like Freemasonry, but there's a story in Mackey's Freemason Bible that's like a Bible encyclopedia, where if you look it up, it's Enoch's vault, and it's essentially the story that they kept through their history of Enoch did exist, and before the flood, he hid away all of man's knowledge, and it was in a vault that's like they apparently never discovered. So Matt, could you imagine opening up something like that? It's, oh boy, like there it is. It's all in stone, and
yeah, exactly.
Right.
There's the method of Cyclopean architecture and all kinds of crazy secrets, and yes, there's your science and spirituality combination right there. So what made me, when I was reading that part of your book, I was wondering about what it made me think of is, did the poles, was part of that cataclysm like a pole shift or a even like magnetic or physical or some sort of crustal displacement thing? Like, was that, that area somewhere else before then? So, I mean, I guess what would your thoughts be about the pre and post Younger Dryas cataclysm, and did the land change locations? Like Egypt seems to be, Darren and I have talked about this a lot. Egypt seems to be smack in the middle no matter what happens with that shift.
Yeah, it kind of needs to, I think Egypt being there is like, yeah, so I don't know I don't know if Egypt was called Egypt the whole time, but it does that thing with Khufu's pyramid where you do the latitude, and then you go, well, I think that's there on purpose. When you see that the latitude is 29.9792 whatever, and then you go look up the speed of light and you go, well, it's that in meters per second. Like that was a pretty deliberate placement. But speaking to everything else, yeah, I'm not an expert on crustal displacement or any of that stuff. What I do feel pretty confident talking about is the coastlines. Like, I don't know if we'll ever, unless we had a satellite in orbit. Like, I think modeling could get us someplace on figuring out where the continents were, but without actual imagery, I don't know if, it's like, I don't know if the best computer model in the world can figure that out. But I do know we can do the thing of, like, there was a lot of ice on the planet, and that ice went all the way down to New York, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and it's not there anymore. And it seems like the more time goes on, the faster we see that ice went from where it was then to where it is today pretty fast. Like cascade failure, like system failure of the climate.
Probably.
Well, even on Google Earth, I mean, you can see without a model, and it doesn't really tell us where the coastlines were, but you can just look at, Google Earth to a certain extent, but that other one that Graham has bigger extent, and you can see some clear break lines in the north and the south where things are hundreds of miles away from where they were, who knows when. Now, I guess the Uniformitarius would tell us that, well, that took, a million years for that thing to move over there. But it seems like, the Uniformitarians were wrong about everything else, it seems like. So if anything, the timelines are faster than the ones we're being presented now, I would argue, instead of older. And they're
Right.
trying to tell us it was millions. The new guys are trying to tell us it was, it might have been hundreds or even decades. And, I think that this might even happen more recently than that.
Yeah, I think right. So I don't know if I can't speak too much to like how things do this movement. I don't know what to follow there, but I think it's anybody's allowed to talk about it, and any conclusion that you come to is probably pretty decent, because I don't know how you actually figure that out. I really, knowing how you would have to model everything and then figure out like how are you trying to figure out if these fit together to get it to a million years? Like what supports that? Geez, that's just sort of like an answer you throw out because you've never seen it move any faster. It's moving at the rate of half an inch per year or whatever right now. So it times it to whatever. But I think more like looking at the climate, the actual climate shift, like the beauty of Google Earth. Go on there, find a coastline, hover your mouse over the water. If that water says it's anything less than like 200 feet deep, it was above. It was definitely above.
What about the idea? I mean, I think there's a chance that South America used to be attached to Antarctica. I mean, it looks like they're.
I don't know how you would do it.
Out.
It's real deep. It's real deep. Yeah.
Pull up that whole.
Do you want to show? Do you want to show your global data viewer now? Is that a good way
sure.
to that, Greg? Or you probably could.
But that's, I guess. Yeah, I can show it. So let me pull that up. So we took some data that is available, open sourced, and let me get. You let me know. Do we have anything? We got it.
No, not yet. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. So we took some data that was open source from NOAA, which is like our government doing data stuff. They got it from a big bunch of grants that were done to study the climate. Thank you, Al Gore. And they looked at ice cores from all over the world, and they looked at the gas in the ice cores to try to determine temp levels. And then they were able to look at geological features, and they got a good idea of what the glacial max looked like. And this all coincides with stuff we were seeing Randall talk about and other folks talk about, that like lots of ice in the north, and you can see it here, that receded. Now, I tend to think that this global data, this stuff that's coming off of from the University of Zurich, is very conservative. So what we've done here is we've mapped the CO2 level here. And as it's lower, this would mean that ice can accumulate no problem at the poles. And as it does this, ice is no longer going to accumulate. And this little bump at the end here is the Industrial Revolution. So
have the CO2 levels going further back, like where they were quite a lot more?
Oh, we can look up. Yeah, we've got CO2 going back 800,000 plus years. Yeah. So we can look at it. And if we look, I can show you, if you give me a moment, we can jump to something that's more contextualized around humans than around this. Because we could, basically this would keep cycling. And Zurich, the team at Zurich didn't go back 800,000 years and model the climate. But we can see, like, let me get this thing to stop moving. This is Florida, big old Florida. Look at how big it was. It was just this chunky. And then it kind of, look at now.
Oh, wow. That's.
Yeah. So when people talk about like we've explored these areas, I don't think so. You would have to do, like, we still find stuff buried in people's backyards. There's no way anybody's gone and done a comprehensive, let's see if there were major settlements here. Right. There's so much land to cover.
Great example right there. Florida is one of the best examples.
And this would be without any isostatic depression too. This is just basically based on ice melt water. Yeah,
this is just based on what's there today and what happens if you let the coasts go out. So there's not a whole, like, Florida's a huge example.
Can you go to Europe? Can you go to Europe, the Mediterranean, and Doggerland?
Oh yeah,
what it looks like.
Oh yeah. Watch this. It'll come around. Boom! Look at all that land.
because Darren and I were just looking at this the other day, like literally yesterday. We were trying to figure out if the UK was covered because the UK's got all these
Yeah.
crazy energy zones that
Right.
like Wiltshire, for example, and I thought to me it seems like they must have been clear during this ice age, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong in thinking all that.
Watch this right here. Boom. That just
Okay, so
happened.
look at the
one day.
time on the left. So 19,000 BC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then right about there is where it just starts boom flowing in. And again, I think they're being really conservative with how fast this filled. I think we might be able to see more or less like a full fill happening within 100 years or 50 years or 10 years. I think this is just a very just like you're saying earlier, they're trying to stretch out things to millions of years. I think they're trying to keep this as
That's a
wide
good
as
point.
possible.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Because if they tighten this up, then they're just like it's either an impact event.
Yeah.
It's the sun went crazy.
It's a cataclysm.
I mean, it almost
You
has
have
to be. My problem with the sun going crazy is I don't see how the sun can go crazy enough to melt all the ice without like just absolutely destroying everything else. Just by
right tuned in just enough.
Yeah, it's like you'd have to be shooting the laser sun at the ice sheet. Otherwise, the heat amounted to melt the ice that quick with just solar heat is going to be boiling the oceans.
So this is another interesting region here, the western coast of India, because you have that in their books, like 100%. You have them remembering this happening, and this is an event that's like, watch this right on now, boom, gone.
Yeah,
so you get city
BC, 8,000. That's a huge date back then.
8,000. Yeah, and so this is like Dwarka. There's a city that's in their legend called Dwarka that's now underwater. If you were in this region, you could go out. You could go out and see these things. You could see the evidence of it. Like there's pottery that's still on the shorelines, like eroding away, and nobody's really like going crazy trying to dig it. I think Graham Hancock has that story. Maybe it's someone else that they wanted to go dive it.
Yeah,
and they were denied, like full wholesale denied.
But I see what you mean about the timing, though, right? They almost have it spread out. Like they almost have the current condition now to like what it was like 18, and they've sort of spread it out so that you can see it change. But instead of it being like at 8,000, 9,000 BC, it being
should all happen between like 13 and 12 or 13 and 11,000 BC.
Right.
I think just
years ago.
That's given them a lot of stuff. It like all happened between 13 and 12,000 BC. It seems like.
Yeah, I think so. I think
BC.
That's younger.
Years ago. Yeah. 10,000 BC, basically 10,000, and I think
11,000.
Yeah, because what we found was when we looked at the actual data, when we were going through what the science teams are generating, they're generating like a line plus a depth of ice, and so it's like here's the depth of ice and here's the gaseous content of that line or that layer of ice. And this is an abstraction of that data. This is just taking that data and putting it to work. But as you look at it, there's one area where you go from this line to this line, the gas has changed a ton. And so we went out and looked for opinions based on that. And there was a team out of the University of Colorado at Boulder a long time ago. This wasn't like recent, but 10, 15, 20 years ago, they published out and said, yeah, we used to have a thought that this was thousands of years, but in one jump period, we saw 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
And global. And you're like, what would that do, man? If the measurement period is like they're thinking it's like a season or something like that. So imagine next year that in 2026, what's the temp out right now? It's like 85 degrees here, maybe 90 degrees here. Imagine if it was 115.
Yeah.
Well, I can look at just looking at your chart here, you can see when it happened, right? I mean, when it enters the Holocene epoch, something really changed. Something changed in the atmosphere to stabilize it to a level unseen.
Oh, that's a good spotting right there. That where the CO2 levels off there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it was
10, and it's right at 10,000 BC. That's just what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow. What about the other data layers there? Can you
we're not there yet. We're still processing because we want to do I can show you something. Let me jump to another page real quick. I can show you another. We basically created an art piece with this website, but one of the things that we were able to pool to was the number of sites that are basically considered ancient sites. And there's a little bit more
Oh,
to see, but we want to
wow.
layer this in plus
Holy shit, that's awesome.
pretty cool, yeah. And so
43.
these
So
are
you've got 44,000, over 4,000 ancient sites on here.
yeah, yeah, and like this is everything that I think everything on this list has to be older than 500 BC or something like that. That's the
Okay. Yeah.
condition
Yeah.
that it
That
has to
makes
be
sense.
by the archaeologists,
Yeah.
them saying it's older,
Right.
not. I think they're a little conservative too.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
want to layer this in at some point, and we wanted to try to take an estimate at population because nobody has none of the major demographic modeling companies have gone out and said we think we know what the population was even at 10,000 BC. We only have two of the major research groups saying we think we know what the population is there. So we want to take a stab at that and then use the genetic bottlenecks that we see that extrapolate out a better number for the population before the flood. The one that we're kind of comfortable saying is there's probably at least 500 million humans, and then that number in that event reduces down to 1 to 10 million. And then let's pull up a chart here.
That's a great little thing. I mean, I'm looking forward to what South America is going to show, because that's where all the stuff is buried that aren't really even officially discovered yet, right? I mean, if they find a whole bunch of ancient stuff in the jungles, I mean, that map will completely change, right? South America will become red, and along with a lot of probably Asia even, and yeah.
Yeah, and with lidar now, and you can see under the surface. That's I think there with what lidar has shown us is there's sites everywhere. They're
Yeah, exactly.
everywhere. We've missed so many of them, and that changes your idea of what the population is quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is our story of humans here on this page. So this is like if you think about climate stability, this is pretty stable here. This is pretty stable here. This is pretty stable here. But look at this. The same thing happened. That happened here.
That looks like a cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cycle.
Look at this. It just keeps going.
100,000.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. And it's like I don't know what would cause that, but it's here in the data. And what I can imagine is that from this line right about here to here. So it's like, it's like half an inch on the ruler of humans being here. We went from 1 million people to 8 billion, just like that. And like, look at the scale. So if we ever at any point before this got to 1 million people, do you see flat areas where the climate was stable that we could have, you know what I mean? Like predicted society. I think this one's pretty good right here.
Yeah. And down below that too. I mean, right down there is not bad, that whole area.
Yeah.
But also what it's telling me is that there's something natural going on, and that peak that we're at today is going to come down. Like, it looks like we're right at the spot where it's going to come down.
And you know what we realized when we were doing the research too is this peak here. This is like the industrial. This is really just the last.
I didn't see that peak. Okay.
Oh yeah, it does this right at the very end. Yeah. But it's like that is in a way it could disappear from the record.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird thing. It's like if you're back this far, like
it's such an anomaly that it
numbers.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that the ice would get if we're looking at the ice record, it's essentially like it would just it could be missed in the measurement period of somebody going and pulling ice cores because it's happening in this little 50-year window. And when you're back 300,000 years, they're not seeing their guesses on how many years ago it is from layer to layer is going from like, okay, this is 100,000 years ago. And then the next one is, this is 100,500 years ago. So it's like they're not resolute at that point. Everything's compressed in and they're just trying to they're thinking they're close. So yeah, there's a lot of chances in here for a big old spike to show up. And then for an environmentally conscious society to go clean things up.
Well, doesn't it always have to show up while it's making ice? What if it's not? What if it's like not in ice making mode when the spike happens? Like, is our current industrial revolution?
Well,
what ice scores would that show up in?
And right now, like it would.
Yeah,
let's
say in 100 years we go back into a new ice age. Now, like, does that CO2 that we've spiked in the atmosphere over the industrial revolution Does that stay stagnant over that period and settle into the ice? Is it settling into the ice right now? Because the ice is sort of
Right
melting
now.
away right now.
Right now.
So the stuff
Right now
that's
it's settling.
entering it
Yeah.
is melting away at the same
Yeah.
time.
You've got
How
the
do
right
you
mindset
even
that like the data
how do
could
you maintain
simply
it?
go missing.
Data could simply go away just because for a hot
Yeah.
summer.
Yep. 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 That's exactly the way to see it. That we've been told there's a very clear picture here, and there is not. There's no, I've read a lot of different stuff about people saying, well, if there was an industrial revolution, then you would see elements of ferrous materials in the atmosphere that would land in the ice, stuff like that. You don't know that. You don't know if we just went about smelting stuff the dumbest way possible, or if we just went right creating energy the dumbest way possible. We could today, we have solutions that would completely stop the emissions of anything for generating electricity, and we are not doing them.
Yeah.
We're not. It's like what? Well, maybe they did. Maybe they had a little bit. maybe.
But no,
maybe
that's
this
a
is the
really good
first
point, though.
time,
But because our exhaustion way of creating energy could be like a blip. In the end, it could just be a blip. That's how we first kind of came into the Industrial Revolution, but it changed in 2025 to 2035 when we started using, better technologies. It could.
Yeah. And I think we've got, like, right now, to me, it feels like we're passing the buck off to the next generation.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take an immediate economic hit when you do this. You're going to shut down industries that exist. You're going to have to put people that have been spending their whole life trying to figure out how to get oil out of the ground and say, maybe we don't need to do that as much. And so you're going to have to change the entire way the world works. But you got to do it at some at some point. You got to say, like, okay, here's my two choices. I can either drill stuff out of the ground, and that can be any number of things. That can be oil, that can be gas, that can be uranium that you're refining, plutonium, like any of these things. We could do that. That's my option. I got to take that, drill it, transport it halfway across the world, refine it. It's got all these risks in transport. It's got all these, known carcinogens that are flying out when it's being burned. Then we take that, we stick it in something, it moves a turbine. We use old Nikola Tesla's little generator idea, and we get electricity. And every part of that has to be maintained, and there's a bunch of people involved, against safety concerns, and there's a market for that stuff because some people have these things and other people don't. So there's trade and stuff. Or we could just build a circuit that sucks energy out of electromagnetic waves coming off the sun, and it's got no moving parts, and just by existing, it pulls energy. Like, when we go to that point, there's a lot of people that lose their jobs.
Yeah.
Energy becomes something that you used to pay for, but why would you pay for it? In a post, it basically creates a post scarcity society.
Yeah.
And then all of these other questions you have about, like, are we polluting? They become less of a headache to solve. Like, if you say, oh man, it's a headache to solve pollution. Like, now it just becomes, well, we have all this abundant energy. It becomes cheap, free to go out and get all the plastics out of things. And I can just imagine a century dedicated to conserving the world and reverting it back to a place where it just feels like we aren't, leaving a messy room everywhere we go and spreading, like,
you're tuned with
without
nature instead of like, well, what was that void there that you
Oh, the void is where we see there is a emergence of human around 300,000 years before present,
which is just
around that.
fairly new too, right? Didn't it go from 200 to
Yeah.
300 not too long ago?
Yeah, well, it's going to bounce around a lot because it's there's no way to know. You use radiometrics. You try to anticipate the way that something is decaying, and although it's not easy to make something appear older, there are things that can happen that can reset that dating a lot. So it's like they got some material out of a cave in Morocco, and they got some bones that look about right, and they're thinking it's this old. And now there could be another cave they find that gets it back even further. There could be, you know what I mean? So the numbers they move, but they're moving kind of back towards, at this point, 300,000 years. So we're kind of thinking, if humans were there and the population was likely big enough to the point where they were exiling people to caves or whatever that was, that there was enough of them that you find one in a cave. Because how many cave bodies is a population of 8 billion generating right now? like how many people die in caves every year? I don't know. But probably not
zero.
not a whole lot. Yeah, zero is probably the average or the median. Yeah. So we think there's a fill-in period from there that we call the void. There's nothing good to go with. There's the only place that you're going to find evidence of anything is in things like the Sumerian Kings list. And so we have this thing from the Sumerian Kings list to fill in for that. That because they nailed down the dates. Like their impression of how long humans have been on the planet is from their account, which comes out of 300-400 BC being written down, but it's on their tablets that are looking to be about 2000 BC, 1500 BC. They're saying
15 per year right now for cave deaths. So with 8 billion people,
15 per year. So we're making 15 cave bodies a year. Good luck finding them.
And most of those are getting retrieved, probably, right? I only know of one that they left in there.
I know that. Is that the story where the guy went in head first?
Yeah.
It's a horrible story.
Yeah.
So the Sumerians, they said that the world started, or their world, the humans, the coming to this planet in a sense, or they describe it as the kingship descends from heaven, whatever that means. 241,000 years before they wrote it. So we used to look at a date like that and say that's silly, and now it's like, well, that's pretty close to what this other stuff's saying. And the Egyptians have a similar story of these times going way back. So I think we just have to accept we have no idea what was going on in this period, and I don't think we should lock into anything yet. Like we should just say it's all missing data,
right?
And we've got to just do our best to come together from different fields and talk about this more.
And we've got giant graveyards around the world, sort of in these same sort of in different cave systems and stuff like that, with animals that shouldn't have been coexisting in caves at the time.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that the modern science educators do is they take something that's like plainly theory and they present it as fact. So it's going to lead to a lot of this where they're like, there was no way this could have lived with this, and you're like, well, you don't know that. You found one skeleton here and one skeleton here, and you've made the story of the world come together based off of that, and that's really not that smart, at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I think like, from the other side, like the perfect example right now is this boneyard in Alaska where they're just washing all these animals out of the hillside seemingly forever. And it's like, well, did all these different creatures just gather in this valley right before, and then they all died here together? Because it seems more likely to me that some sort of cataclysm washed them there, and either water or flood or whatever happened. They got mashed up there into this pile as dead bodies. Not they didn't walk there and then die.
Right. I've heard that from several places. Now that they have the evidence of these bone piles, just like a herd that got caught in something clearly.
Yeah,
I think that's why we have dinosaur
sometimes.
Bones too, right?
Yeah, the cave in England, they found like 3 different epochs of bones washed in on top of each other, of like hippos and lions and bears and all this shit from different epochs. So it seems like it's happened more than once that all these bones have got crammed into this cave. And again, to me, the most likely scenario is they got washed in there as dead bodies, and then when the water came back, receded, the shit got left in the cave.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to see it. I think the whole idea of calling like early humans to like cavemen is just like, nope. Why in the world would you really invent the world where humans don't go out and make spears and just start pushing, like taking vengeance, right? You lost a kid to some like cave bear, you're gonna go kill that bear. Like that's just how humans are. Like we eliminate threats by nature. Like we group up, and 5 of us is like 5 humans is a name an animal that 5 humans couldn't really mess with. If so it's, I think that the nature of cave people or whatever, I think these are either people that like were in exile and that's a makeshift prison, or they were explorers, like they were just trying to go see what was in a cave, or like this, the thing you said is like perfectly put, is like they could have just simply washed in there,
or they were hiding underneath because of these cataclysms. I mean, when in Ignatius Donnelly's book on Ragnarok, he talks about all the examples, all the myths of people that hid in the caves when the sun went down. Like the sun didn't come back, like there was a massive cataclysm and they had to go underground or hide in caves. and they have tales of them coming out of the caves and first like trying to figure out if it's okay now to come out, if it's light enough and the sun coming back. And I mean, it's not just one, it's like mythologies of these cultures all over the
They found
world.
safety in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the bunker idea is pretty smart to look at too.
Bunker idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's too scary to be outside. There's a little bit of evidence that, like, I just read a paper that they think that the red ochre, that stuff that you see, as the paint on the walls, that it was like used by humans like as a coating because of solar events and as a way to kind of like a makeshift sunscreen.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So if going outside burns, staying in a cave might be the only thing you can do. Maybe you can't even make it back to your house.
Yeah, because who knows what's going on with the atmosphere at the time and all this stuff. I mean, if you have these massive cataclysms, everything's fucked up. So, speaking of Donnelly and all that, I mean, one of my sort of latest sort of theories is after reading all these books from the 1800s and the early 1900s, is that this kind of they were almost more on our page than the modern 20th century scientists. Like so something changed. And Randall says it's in 1978 when they came out with this paper about Atlantis to make excuses for basically the geology doesn't match, but they threw away all the other correlations with that. Like there was a concerted effort to in the late 70s basically to get rid of this whole like Atlantis type theory, this ancient civilization theory, because to me all the researchers in the 1800s, I mean, even the theosophists and some of the other researchers just admit they knew that there was these cultures that were there
There's
before
books coming
the
out about
ancients,
Mu
before
and
the ancients.
Lemuria.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have Casey, who's like doing remote viewing essentially to explore more. Yeah, you know what I think? This is going to be like opinion hat, but what I think could have happened is that so in the 1800s there was like this total resurgence in archaeology and um, going and finding things and seeing the wealth that these people had at one point. I don't think anybody expected like Tutankhamun's the tomb to be full of billions of dollars of gift stuff, basically. And I think that may have done something that maybe stuff was found that we've never found out about because it's alluded to, right? Like it's like there's stuff that is, if you plainly read um the Egyptians' own accounts, and if you learn how to translate just a little bit, you don't need to learn how to translate all of Egyptian, but if you just learn a couple of these key hieroglyphics and know that that is like their word for magic at a distance, and know that that's their word for remote viewing in a sense, and that they're describing things, when they describe magic, they describe it very literally. Like the glyphs themselves tell the story. You don't worry about the words, just look at the picture and try to see what the picture's saying. You see that they had like an understanding of what they would call water, or what we would simply translate as water, but it's an up and down squiggly line, and they use it not just for water, they use it for all sorts of things that are wave propagated. And it's like, okay, so if they knew that, do we have anybody else saying that they had magic? Yeah, the Hebrews do. The Hebrews are like, yeah, these guys have magic. And you see, do they have any depictions of devices? Yeah, they have devices in their hands. They have things that they like very very clearly are associated with like controlling nature, controlling humans, doing crazy stuff, living forever. Like, did we ever find one of those items? No, we have not found a single ankh. We have not found a single Waz scepter. We have found no Jed pillars. So these were primary things that they would use over and over again, depicted with their pharaohs, with their priests, and we haven't found one.
And even
And it might
Zahi
be
Hawass believes magic, believes in
He's
magic.
got one. Does he have one?
Oh yeah, magic is real.
Yeah, well, I think it was a way to describe something. Like their word for magic is heka, and I think that becomes the modern hekate, like that it gets transferred up, right? And ka is a word for like spirit or life force. Like it's interesting, but the h symbol, the heh part of that, it looks like a twisted strand of something. See, it's like this thing on the top. I might have it on this page, but we'll have to dive through. But it's a twisted strand that just moves. It looks almost like, I don't know, DNA or something. And just apply this. Whoa. Yeah, kind of. It's a little light, but this would be Hekara.
Oh, okay.
And it's like it's such a standout symbol, and it looks like that sort of stuff. When I see it, I'm like, that looks more like circuits, or like a way to describe the phenomenon of wave propagation in which you're controlling it. Like, radio is not that hard to figure out. You don't need that much to figure out the electromagnetic spectrum. Thales of Miletus, one of the seven sages of Greece, used to go around with what was called electron to him, but it was amber, and he would rub it on wool. And if you amber is a biomineral, right? It's not the same as a lot of other stuff. It's a biomineral. It's made out of like living organic stuff that then went down. So they know that. They know it's sap. And he would rub it on wool and create static and be like, bam, it hits you with something. And you'd be like, what was that? He's a magician. Like, so it's the idea of taking that and then like saying, over thousands of years, could you figure out more things that little zap is good for? Probably. And then thinking, well, the Greeks are pretty late to the party. They're a later society by thousands of years. And the Egyptians have been around since like basically day one, saying all these stories. Like there's a kind of controversial story with Khufu, but it's like, there's some papyrus that survived, and it's like 2,000 years old, 2000 BC. I'm sorry, it's like 4,000 years old, and it's talking about this story where somebody comes from a city that we don't know what it is called, the Jed of Senusret or something like this, and it's a village or town called Jed, and there was a person from there that called themselves the Jedi, which is like George Lucas stuff, right? But he could perform miracles, like, and he was showing off what he could do. He was he was able to reattach a hand that had been severed, and he was able to I think something about controlling water, like literally controlling like a pond. But apparently, like, there was something called a Jed, like, as a place that existed in Egypt, and that sounds like where they would have trained the magicians, because that word Jed carries on for forever, as to mean, like, sometimes it is taken in the literal, where they show this thing as a tower, and like it's a magic tower. It's like this tower was controlling something, and so the word means stability. And it's like, yeah, but there's even there's a story where there were Jeds, and then there's a story as we lost all the Jeds. So it's like, and then the floods came in, and like our society, we had to go rebuild the temples.
Holy,
And that
really?
kinda,
When was that from?
Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom transition period.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, Atmos the First writes about it, and like, so Atmos of the First is probably the most likely candidate for well, I would say maybe not the most. There's one or two right before him that are in the intermediary period, but like one of the most, probably very likely, I don't know, Amos is pretty likely that he was the pharaoh that went after Moses. Like, it looks to be about right. Like, the stories check out. Like, he led an army of like a bunch of people out in the middle of nowhere and came back, and like they built a bunch of temples and stuff on the way back, saying we conquered these lands. And missing is the story of, and all the people left, but he's the guy who shows up right after the second intermediary period, in which the Hyksos is what they called them, but the Hyksos is just an alliteration of a term that meant shepherd king. And it tells a different story from the Egyptian, basically, that they were, unlike in the Bible where it says they're the Joseph and all that to Moses is like a short period of time. This would make it out to be, it looks like there was like 300 years there, 400 years. The Israelites came in and like established in Egypt. And then something happened to end the second intermediary period, and then reestablish provincial Egyptian heritage again. Like, now we're back to the people that, came from a guy named Menes or Narmer, the first pharaoh.
Wow. Darren, you got a
First
question?
dynastic.
Yeah.
Is there any? Did you come across any weird stuff with the moon? And all those.
So many weird things with the moon. Are you kidding me? Yeah, so many weird things. We have. Good thing we kept screen sharing. Hold on. We have this little crazy thing here, which is like, let me see if I can move. Yeah, I can. Okay. So check this out. This is the electromagnetic spectrum. And this is sort of like, if you can imagine particles coming in from the cosmic sources, this would be this stuff, this here represents our atmosphere. And so between certain wavelengths, our atmosphere pushes all this stuff out. Nothing gets through. Everything that hits here is getting broken up or whatever. And in this window right here, we get this is where all of our cosmic, this is two ways.
That's a great visualization.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So like this, if you're broadcasting, it's going away from the planet forever. If you did this, if you had like an amateur radio off into space for billions of years, and also the other way. So we were looking at a lot of different scientific stuff. So if we focus on the moon, we did this little diagram here to show the moon in orbit around Earth. It's up here, this little part. And there's a great paper that was out by Michael Bevington, who he did some experimentation. He had an RF meter that can check voltage levels in atmosphere, and he put it up like a meter above the ground, and he measured like every single day, every couple hours or something like that. And he took down over the course of several months measurements. Then it showed that the atmospheric voltage, which you can easily measure, it goes up by a factor of like 20 to 40, depending on where the moon is, because we'll just adjust them. So you see this. Was that Ellery?
It was the phase.
Yes,
it's testing on the phases.
He was testing on the phases.
So he was looking. Okay, so was it full?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask.
That's what we're gonna get into really quick. It's not when it's full. It's like an interesting thing. So when you do the math of it, this will make sense to you in a second. So if the moon's new, what that means is the sun is here, the moon is here, and then the Earth is here. So it's sort of like the moon is like shielding us from. Right, when we can't see the moon, it means that like there's no sunlight blocking off or reflecting off of it and hitting us. And by the way, there's nothing in space to stop that stuff. So it's like if it's bright, it's a problem. So if we adjust it back here, we put it directly behind. This will be a full moon. You can watch as the particle density increases, and this would mean that as it's in the full spot, yeah, obviously there's more EM hitting us, because it's like not only is EM hitting us from the sun side, it's hitting the moon and then banking back into us. And also when stuff hits the moon, remember we talked about piezoelectricity being like this thing that can convert the electromagnetics to electricity, right? The moon is covered with piezo material. It is covered with SiO2, which is quartz, powderized quartz. So it's so electrified by this stuff that there's like, you can go look up these little accounts that people have that have landed stuff there, where they put a lander down and the dust suspends in the static like 30 feet in the air for days. That's how much static there is. If you ever seen that much static, like you would realize, holy crap, like that's a lot of electricity. So we get this at the full moon, this like density, but watch this as we dial it in right to the corner here where it's at this angle. It would be like 3 days before the full cycle. Hold on. She knows the names better than I do.
Waxing gibbous.
That the density will go up even higher based on Bevington's research. And so what he proposed is that what's happening is at the waxing gibbous, and is it the waning gibbous? So it's 3 days before the full moon, 3 days after the full moon. The moon's in a spot where it's bouncing not directly into the back of the planet, but in at an angle, which you see this thing in the corner. Here's the magnetosphere. So it's basically in this little tail of the magnetosphere that's weak, and it's just pushing up the back door. And then in his paper, he also then goes on to cite like 50 other papers that have been trying to figure out why it is that we have basically like these longer circadian rhythms that are mapping at 30-day cycles, 29-day cycles, and looking for a mechanism of action. Because I don't know what people were thinking of dismissing this, but it's like, yeah, no, there's a voltage jump, once a month that's telling that your cells are listening for. And then when that happens, they're replying to it in some biological way. And sometimes that biological way is maybe they add a little chemical and a woman menstruates. And sometimes that biological way is maybe they add a little bit of extra protein somewhere. And when that extra protein gets added 6 times, they migrate, or they do something of that nature.
Wow.
So
So when is it on the waxing gibbous where this happens?
the waxing and the waning gibbous.
And that's
and
after
both
a full moon or
angles.
before a full moon? The waxing.
Both.
Both. So twice
So in his research, he saw
twice a month.
Yep.
Yeah.
Twice a month. But it's kind of it's kind of like it's up. It spikes really high in a very short period. And then the level that it maintains during the full moon is way higher than any other level other than these spikes. And then it spikes again. It's almost like a blip heartbeat, and then it goes flat.
Yeah. And then it goes down.
Back. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's not only that, there's another orbital thing out there that really super affects us, and that's Venus. And so we do the same thing with Venus. And you can see it like Venus. So think of Venus as it's larger than the moon. And from us to Venus, there's nothing stopping that stuff coming. Our atmosphere is going to treat it equally, but it basically is like a way to get even more sunlight. It's like more things hitting us. And so Venus can sometimes go behind the sun and get into this position that like I monitor. There's a solar telescope I look at every so often because it's kind of fun. And it's maintained by the Air Force, I think, but it's all public data. I can't remember the name of it. Delaware, could you get me the name for that? It's a solar observer that's out in a Lagrange point. So it's outside of the upper atmosphere. So it gets really clean solar images. And if you ever watch that thing, you'll see that they've had to put a corona spot, something over the sun, because they're really just looking to see what's coming past the sun or coming off of it towards us. So you can see particles moving this way. And you can also see them go the other way, which is wild. Like you can see, like, I don't know how what's sending it back, but there's stuff sending back. If Venus gets into that window, Venus blows out the sensor sometimes, because if the sun flares, it'll go towards Venus, bounce off Venus and fly at us, and then fry this camera out for a couple of frames. And nobody talks about how big that influence is.
Right. And how weird so that it's the reflection and not just a blockage. Like,
yeah. And Venus's atmosphere is so charged with electricity that we underestimated it. And there's a Japanese team that sent a probe out just a few years ago, and when they measured it, they said, "Whoa, we were off by like a decimal point or two, like of how much energy Venus is holding as electricity at any given moment."
Wow.
So we are in the female aspect.
Whoa. No. Yeah, well, Mars has got nothing. Mars is just way less.
Mars has got a numb, and Venus is full of electricity.
Yeah, covered with scars, and yeah. So I think the solar stuff is just it's such like a, I don't know, the solar system itself. It's like if we still don't understand that, and that's physics.
And those are pretty basic things you'd think right now.
And we're still trying to get it across, right? That like Bevington did a good job of saying, hey, biology is like directly tied in here. And I think, I still talk to people that say there's no biofield, and I'm like, what are you, nuts? Like, we are shooting photons off of us all the time. Like, have you ever felt heat is a photon? Like what do you think heat's some other magical thing going on? No, it's photons doing photon things, and everything on the spectrum here is photons.
Right? Man, like we should do this again. We should do this again and get into some of the solar system mechanics.
Oh, we totally could. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, for now we better wrap it up, though. We do have another show coming up. What, Greg, is there anything to wrap up this show that needs a cap on it, or that we didn't get to?
Well, I don't think so. I think we could there's always more to talk about with Enoch. And I think the one message I'd have for people is try to read it. If you're interested in ancient history, it's one of the easiest reads.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, like page by page.
That fresh feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty well preserved. It's I think, our guess on it is it's 10,000 BC is when it was written, 10,500. But the paper version we have, it's one of the oldest books we have on the planet. So it's not like paper lasts all that long, and we luckily have a good extant version from Second Temple period. So it's almost like, you know, whoever's in the business of hiding stuff and suppressing stuff can suppress and hide a lot, but they can't hide stuff like that. Things that globally available knowledge like that's not going back in the bag. And if you read it with the mindset of like understanding the Younger Dryas, it might give you a little bit of an insight into the societies and cultures, and potentially really understand maybe more of the existential reasons as to why someone would need to, or why it would precipitate the end of a society in order to make way for a new society, you know, for our society, I would say.
And we squandered it. Where can people find all your stuff?
You can find us online at cosmos.university. That's our so not a .com, it's a .university. And I would encourage people only to go there on a desktop computer. It will fry anything that doesn't have a good graphics card in it. It's sort of like it's our way to do interactive presentations. So if you have some time, you can check that out.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun making that. But for our published work, you can find us on Amazon. You can look up the Book of Enoch by Cosmos University, or the Book of Enoch and Antediluvian account. And we've got a paperback, a hardcover, and an ebook. We do have a Facebook group if you're interested in ancient artifacts and sites from the past. We publish a few a day. And that Facebook, you can find us at Cosmos University. We're going to be, I think, expanding a little bit on the Discord, like to do more community stuff. So I'm looking at Valerie to make sure we're signed up for that. So we also have a Discord, but you can find that through our Facebook or something.
Right on.
Awesome.
Karen, you're going to love that website. Check out cosmic.university. It's pretty cool on all these tabs here: mysteries, operations, cytosynthesis, occultometrics. Wow, this is awesome. Are you guys going to put your book out on audio at all?
Thinking about it, I think we've got, you know, there's kind of like two parts. Our book contains, it's like a 50-50 split between our studies, like what we learned during reading it and what we concluded, and the actual first Enoch text.
Yeah.
I tend to think that on the first Enoch text, that's public domain-ish. That's in the realm of it.
Yeah, we did it in
audiobook.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think people can get that. So maybe we'll just do the first part of it. Do it. You
got a good voice.
Audiobooks.
Put it out there. Yeah.
Give it a shot. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Do it. Yeah. If you need a hand with it, let us know. We'll help you.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right on, Greg. Thanks again for coming on the show. I look forward to it. We should do this again when we have a little more time and dig into that a little bit more. But for now, we hope you and DR have a good afternoon. Thanks. Come back anytime.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know how to work Zoom anymore. There we go. And that was our chat with Greg Dizzia.
Yeah, Dizzia, I think. I just guessed at it when I said it. So
yeah, that was a good one. I like it.
Oh man, wait till you see this website, dude. You're gonna flip. They got all the planets and stuff, all kinds of stuff in there. You're gonna love it.
Right on. Well, big thanks to Greg for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Of course, head over to grimerica.ca/support if you want to be even more thanked by us for helping us keep the show afloat. grimerica.ca/support. Today, we rely on your support 100%. So if you can make it a one-time donation or sign up for a monthly, that would be super. And we would love you, and we'll read your note if you do. Check out grimericaoutlaw.ca for other podcasts. Contact at thecabin.com for trips and events. And adultbrain.ca for audiobooks, ebooks, print books, and publishing your book if that's something you want to do, or make an audiobook with us, whatever you want to do. GrimericaCBD.com for gummies and tinctures. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Somehow I built a rocket ship out of the stuff dreams are made and popsicle sticks. Please look at my rocket ship schematics. Tell me you can fly to the moon. Tell me I'm not a lunatic. let you do the countdown. 3, 2, 1, no hesitation. I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet you think I'm a space cadet. I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet you think I'm a space cadet. I bet, I bet, I bet you think, I bet you think I'm a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a dreamer. Look at my rocket ship fly by, trailing behind a silver streamer. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a dreamer.